Good evening, one and all, and welcome to the stream. Took a little bit longer than usual, because I was just getting a few other things set up. I was going to do a change today, and I was going to do the live in the studio area, rather than in the booth. But there was a weird hissing noise coming from this microphone when it was out there, placed above me, and I don't know what it was. It could have been because I was on fire, I don't know. Anyway, it's a pleasure to have you on the stream, and you should know by now what this stream is all about. I randomly decided, okay, during this lockdown thing, pretty much I've got nothing else to do apart from voiceovers, and I thought, you know what would be great? I've got a book, the Brothers Grimm complete collections of fairy tales, and it's the original Germanic texts. And what better way than to read all of them, all 220 of them I think there is, to you? Well, obviously not in the same day, because that would be quite a big marathon, I think that's the correct terminology. So I am reading, or trying to read, one per day. Please also do like, comment, share, subscribe, and make sure you click that bell icon for notifications for when I go live or when I upload videos. I hope everything is going fine and that the audio is above acceptable. It shouldn't be. Nothing that comes out of this booth or studio tends to be subpar anyway. The camera, however, it's just a little HD webcam. I do need to look at a different way of doing this, but we shall see. So, yesterday's was... what was it? It was Faithful John. Faithful John. All about a king that cuts off his children's heads to bring his stone friend back to life, with no guarantees that he was actually going to get his kids back. Do check out that previous video from yesterday if you want to learn all about that story. I do apologise. There was a couple of wording mistakes during that one because it was a bit of a mouthful, some of the sentences. Again, I will reiterate that this book I have never read. None of the stories have I read. This is not pre-prepared. This is completely live. So when I'm reading the story to you, it's the first time I'm hearing it. So I'm just as excited and intrigued and suspenseful as what you are, the faithful viewer, listening to it and watching it. Yeah, do pop onto the chat just to say hi and sort of get in there. Because it is nice to, although I can see people watching, it's nice to hear from you guys as well. So let's begin. This one is called The Good Bargain. No idea what this could be, but let's get started. There was once a peasant who had driven his cow to the fair and sold her for 7 thalers. On the way home, he had passed a pond, and already mistake already. On the way home, he had to pass a pond, and already from afar he heard the frogs crying, "Ache, ache, ache, ache." Well, said he to himself, "They are talking without rhyme or reason. It is 7 that I have received, not 8. When he got to the water, he cried to them, "Stupid animals that you are! Don't you know better than that? It is 7 thalers, not 8. The frogs, however, stood there, ache, 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 ache. "Come then, you won't believe it. I can count it for you." And he took his money out of his pocket and counted on the 7 thalers. I think it's thalers. It's like thalers with 1 L. Always reckoning 24 groschen to a thaler. The frogs, however, paid no attention to his reckoning, but still cried, "Ache, ache, ache, ache." "What?" cried the peasant, quite angry. "Since you are determined to know better than I, count it yourselves," and threw all of his money into the water. He stood still and wanted to wait until they were done, and had brought him his own. What? He stood still and wanted to wait until they were done, and had brought him his own again. But the frogs maintained their opinion and cried continually, "Ache, ache, ache, ache." And besides that, did not throw the money out again. He still waited a long while until evening came and he was forced to go home. Then he abused the frogs and cried, "You water splashers, you thickheads, you goggle-eyes! You have great mouths and can screech till you hurt one's ears, but you cannot count 7 tailors. Do you think I'm going to stand here until you get done?" And with that, he went away. But the frogs still cried, "Ache, ache, ache, ache," after him till he went home quite angry. Fair enough. After a while, he bought another cow, which he killed, and he made the calculation that if he sold the meat well, he might gain as much as 2 cows were worth, and still have to hide in the bargain. And still have the hide in the bargain. When he got to the town with the meat, a great troop of dogs were gathered together in front of the gate, with a large greyhound at the head of them, which jumped at the meat, snuffed at it, and barked, "Wow, wow, wow!" As there were no stopping him, the peasant said to him, "Yes, yes, I know quite well what you are saying. Wow, 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 because you want some of the meat, but I should fare badly if I were to give it to you." The dog, however, answered nothing but, "Wow, wow." "Will you promise not to devour it all, and will you vouch for your companions?" "Wow, wow, wow," said the dog. "Well, if you insist on it, I will leave it for you. I know you well, and know who your master is, but I tell you this, I must have my money in 3 days, or else it will go badly for you. You must bring it out to me." When that he unloaded the meat and turned back. The dogs fell upon it and loudly barked, "Wow, wow." The countryman, who heard them from afar, said to himself, "Now they all want some, but the big one is responsible to me for it." What? Apologies, one moment. The countryman, who heard them from afar, said to himself, "Now they all want some, but the big one is responsible to me for it." When 3 days had passed, the countryman thought, "Tonight my money will be in my pocket," and quite delighted, but no one would come and pay it. "There is no trusting anyone now," said he. And at last he lost patience, and went into town to the butcher and demanded his money. The butcher thought it was a joke, but the peasant said, "Jesting apart, I will have my money. Did not the great dog bring you the meat of the slaughtered cow 3 days ago?" Then the butcher grew angry, snatched a broomstick, and drove him out. "Wait a while," said the peasant, "there is still some justice in the world," and went to the royal palace and begged for an audience. He was led before the king, who sat there with his daughter, and asked him what injury he had suffered. "Alas," said he, "the frogs and the dogs have taken from me what is mine, and the butcher has paid me for it with a stick." And he related at full length all that had happened. At this the king's daughter began to laugh heartily, and the king said to him, "I cannot give you justice in this, but you shall have my daughter to wed for it." What is it with kings just giving their daughters away in these stories? In her whole life she has never yet laughed as she has just done at you, and I have promised her to the man who can make her laugh. You may thank God for your good fortune." "Oh," answered the peasant, "I will not have her. I have a wife already, and she is one too many for me. When I go home, it's just as bad as if I had a wife standing in every corner." We know that feeling. Then the king grew angry and said, "You are a boar." "Ah, Lord King," replied the peasant, "what can you expect from a pig but pork?" "Stop," answered the king. "You shall have another reward. Be off now, but come back in 3 days, and you shall have 500 counted out in full." When the peasant went out by the gate, the sentry said, "You have made the king's daughter laugh, so you will certainly receive something good." "Yes, that is what I think," answers the peasant. 500 are to be counted out to me." "Listen," said the soldier. "Give me some of it. What can you do with all that money?" "What can you do with all that money?" "Because it's you," said the peasant, "you shall have 200. Present yourself in 3 days' time before the king, and let it be paid to you." A Jew who was standing by had heard the conversation, ran after the peasant, held him by the coat, and said, "Oh wonder, what a lucky man you are! I will change it for you. I will change it for you into small coins. What would you do with great tailors? Jew, said the countryman, 300 you can have. Give it to me at 300 you can have. Give it to me at once in coin. In 3 days from this you'll be paid for it by the king. The Jew was delighted with the profit and brought some of the brought the sum in bad groschen, 3 of which were worth 2 good ones. After 3 days passed, according to the king's command, the peasant went before the king. Pulled his coat off, said the latter, and he shall have his 500. Ah, said the peasant, they no longer belong to me. I presented 200 of them to the sentinel, and 300 to the Jew has changed, and 300 that the Jew has changed for me. So by right nothing at all belongs to me. In the meantime the soldier and the Jew entered and demanded what they were owed by the peasant. And this conduct angered the king. They received the blows strictly counted out. The soldier bore it patiently and knew already how it felt. But the Jew said sorrowfully, Alas, alas, are these hard tailors? The king could not help laughing at the peasant, and once all his anger was gone, he said, As you have already lost your reward before it came to you, I will give you something in place of it. Go into my treasure chamber and get some money for yourself, as much as you will. Hello, Governor, Sky-Eye. The peasant did not need to be told twice, and stuffed it into his big pockets whatever would go in. Afterwards he went into the inn and counted out all the money. The Jew had crept in after him and heard how he muttered to himself, That rogue of a king has cheated me after all. Why could he not have given me the money himself, and then I should have known what I had? How can I tell now if what I have the luck... What? How can I tell now if what I have had the luck to put in my pockets is right or not? Good heavens, said the Jew to himself, that man is speaking disrespectfully of our Lord King. I will run and inform him, and then I shall get a reward, and he will be punished as well. When the king heard of the peasant's words, he fell into a passion, and commanded the Jew to go and bring the offender to him. The Jew ran to the peasant. You are at once to go to the Lord King in the very clothes you have on. I know what's right better than that, answered the peasant. I shall have a new coat made first. Do you think that a man with so much money in his pockets is to go out there in a ragged old coat? The Jew, as he saw the peasant, would not stir without another coat, and as he feared that if the king's anger cooled, he himself would lose his reward, and the peasant his punishment. I will out of pure friendship lend you my coat for a short time. What will the people do not for love? Apologies about these mistakes. As you can see, it's old English-style translations, so it is a little bit confusing when you're assuming it's going to be a certain sentence. I will out of pure friendship lend you a coat for the short time. What will people do for love? The peasant was contented with this, put the Jew's coat on, and went off with him. The king reproached the countryman because of the evil speaking of which the Jew had informed him. Ah, said the peasant, what a Jew says is always false. No true word ever comes out of his mouth. That rascal there is capable of maintaining that I have his coat on. That rascal there is capable of maintaining that I have his coat on. What is that? Shrieked the Jew. Is that coat not mine? Have I not lent it to you out of pure friendship, in order that you might appear before the Lord King? When the king heard that, he said, The Jew has assuredly deceived one or the other of us, either myself or the peasant. And again he ordered something to be counted out to him in hard tailors. The peasant, however, went home in the good coat with the money in his pocket and said to himself, This time I have hit it. Okay. Okay. A little bit offensive to Jews, that, saying that they all lie constantly. But again, this is old Germanic text. It's a Germanic fairy tale. So it's not real. So there we go. Offence removed. Not quite sure on that one. I feel as though that was maybe a heavy night's drinking and thought, oh, I know, I've got a good idea. I'll write this story. Sort of jumps about a bit. And, not too sure on that one. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below. Do remember to like, share, and subscribe, and push the bell icon in case you want notifications for when I'm about to go live. Most of the time, I do try and post it on social media to let you know beforehand. I want to thank you very much for joining. Do stay safe, and I hope you enjoyed that story and that the sentence mistakes didn't put you off too much and that you did get the gist of the story. Again, just to reiterate for what I said at the beginning, all of these stories I have not read before. These are the first time that I am reading them out loud, or ever, to you live on this stream. So I don't really think I do too badly to say I've never read them before. Thank you very much for joining, and catch me tomorrow at 9:30 for the next story, which will be The Wonderful Musician. No idea what that one's going to be either. You know, I recognise some of them, but these past two, no. Do check out the other videos as well, and I shall see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining.